Hey everyone, Ryan here, and this is my review of the LEGO Star Wars 2023 Pirate Snub Fighter. Given set number 75346 with 285 pieces, this set sells for $35 in the USA. That is probably just too much money. Now, this is based off the Mandalorian Season 3, and the first reason it costs too much money is it only has those two minifigures you see there, no third minifigure like Gorian Shard. The back of the box is very typical, showing off your play features and characters just kind of standing around. Inside the box, you'll find two numbered bags, your instruction manual, and a sticker sheet. Our first minifigure is Vane, and his main accessory is a sword. Very good looking figure overall. I think they did a really good job with his face print. They really nailed that. I also am always a fan of very continuous flowing torso, waist, leg prints, and this figure definitely has that with things connecting up pretty seamlessly. His back print is also highly detailed, but by far the most interesting part of this figure is the headpiece, which I believe is new, at least for LEGO Star Wars, if not for LEGO as a whole. The inside of the bandana piece is all black, and the top side has a bit of dark tan on it. And while they are subtle, there are more markings on the piece, making it a fantastic looking piece that I think fits the source material very well. Next is our Snub Fighter pilot, and in a color scheme that you really don't see for LEGO Star Wars. This looks like a figure right out of LEGO Chima or something. Pretty crazy looking, but it does look pretty good in my eyes. I think it's a very unique pirate pilot looking minifigure. His gold colored helmet also has printing detail that goes all the way around back. Usually if you look at like a Clone Trooper helmet, the printing stops about halfway through the top. This thing goes all the way to the back. Pretty crazy. Finally, here's a full look at the back print, and there is no second face, just some folds on the back of his head. So while both of these minifigs are pretty well detailed and look good overall, they do both use the same exact face print, which is top tier laziness to me. I mean, at the very least, you could give the pilot a different facial expression than Vane or vice versa. You also had a plethora of different pirate characters shown throughout Season 3 that could have been used here too. I just don't quite understand why the face prints have to be exactly the same, but what I think is really missing from the set is a third figure in the form of Pirate King Gorian Shard. He gets killed off in the Mandalorian Season 3, so it's super unlikely we will ever see him again in Star Wars media. So this feels like the one chance to have gotten him in a LEGO Star Wars set, and it was missed. And when stuff like that is missed, it really sucks. While these figures do look good, it is definitely a minifigure selection that is sorely lacking. Looking at the Snub Fighter now, I have to say it was a fun and engaging build process. I usually don't talk about the build process in my reviews. I generally find them to be pretty monotonous and the same. Well, they can be fun. Maybe monotonous isn't the right word. But this one was particularly good to me, so I did want to point that out. And the finished model does also look really nice. It's pretty dang accurate. It's got a good color scheme for LEGO Star Wars with gray and darker gray, and it also makes really nice use of a new windshield piece. Starting at the front with the main two blasters on the Snub Fighter, I'll highlight one of my favorite building techniques on the set, and that's just the way that these attach. I think it's super satisfying and fun. They also came out just looking fantastic and are pretty strong designs, so you don't have to worry about them falling off. Like, you know, they definitely have some give to them, but they're not going to fall off. Just underneath that, we have our stud shooters, which can be activated by pushing on this piece here, and they work like stud shooters. Very good pieces for play. While we're down here, you can see how simple the rest of the bottom of the ship is, and it's one of my small annoyances with LEGO is when you can see these colors peeking through. You can see some blue, some brown, some green. It doesn't really affect the top side of the model, but definitely is just one of those things that it could just be all gray, but they do it kind of for like the building process, and I get that, but I still would prefer it to be all the right color. I don't have any problem with these stickers here. I think they add a nice amount of detail. I'm usually not completely anti-sticker like a lot of people. However, for $35, I don't know, printed would be nice. Another thing I like about this front section and moving into the middle section is the layering that goes on. Just gives the set a bit more depth and that slight added bit of color. I know black isn't the biggest change up in color going from gray and lighter gray, but it's still something to me. Now, I mentioned the new windshield piece, and it's a very long piece, taking up about half the length of the model, I would say. It does have a sticker on each side so that it's not just a completely standalone windshield piece. It just kind of slightly integrates it into the gray of the rest of the design. And I want to say this has a slight blue tint to it. I'm not 100% sure. I hope my eyes aren't deceiving me, but it definitely looks slightly blue to me. But anyway, it's hinged on a couple clips up there, and it can open very nicely and very far, so you have very easy access to this interior, which is a pretty well finished off interior. It's got the control panel, the steering column, and then a seat for Vane, or more ideally, your Snub Fighter pilot. Now, they give him enough space to lean back quite far so that you can close the cockpit with no trouble from him getting in the way, and he does look pretty good in there. Going right back in real quick though, you can see this piece here. You can lift this up, and it does reveal a small storage area where we have a translucent red stud, tile piece and a blaster. This back section I was particularly impressed with too. I think the building techniques here again shine through. You have very nice detailing on the side with a slight bit of silver with this skate piece, just a nice slight bit of silver. We also saw that up here. So just something to slightly break up the monotonous dark gray and light gray of the model otherwise. And then looking to the wings, again, we're using stickers here, but it's a nice bit of detail to have on both wings there. I can't really expect it to be printed at this point. It's just LEGO status quo. And yeah, I think it does look good though. You can always leave them off, I suppose. Running along here with the engine or the fuel tank build, whatever. Either way, it looks really good with its cylindrical shape and no gap at the very front here where the stud meets the plates from the layering that we saw earlier. I think that is fantastic. Obviously, there's like a gap in there and there's supposed to be, but like where it meets and is flush. Looking to the back, we see our thrust coming out, and they use these translucent orange cone pieces. That's something they've used on a lot of sets, but I think they've done a much better job filling in these pieces behind them, and I think it looks so much better because of that. There's no gaps, there's no movement, no like, back and forth when it shakes. It's just all pretty snugly in there. So big fan of that. Now this back section is also plenty large enough to have a bit of storage, which is reminiscent of some older LEGO Star Wars Rebel sets, I think. Very cool though. Pull that off, and inside you'll find a crate that you can pull out. So you can see pretty big cavity there, and if we pull this up, you will see inside there will be a thermal detonator. One last thing you can't really forget with a set like this is swooshability. It is very swooshable. It's a great pairing with the Mandalorian's N1 Starfighter, of course, because they have dogfights with each other throughout the Mandalorian Season 3, and I think that can create a very fun play experience for kids and makes this a really good gift for them if they've seen the show. So really, this set just completely comes down to price. If they had included a third minifig for $35, it'd be good, or if they had dropped the price $10, it'd also be good, but they did neither of those things. So I think it's not a great pickup for 35 bucks. Definitely a wait for a sale type of set. But if you're a fan of Vane or the Snub Fighter from Mandalorian Season 3, you won't be disappointed with this. You just might spend too much money on it. I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. Get it out of here.